Have you ever wondered why some people seem to stay calm, focused and grounded, no matter what life throws at them, while others unravel at the smallest setback? It's not luck, it's not charm, it's something far deeper. The truth is, your entire life can change not by what happens to you, but by how you respond to it, and the right words at the right time can act like a mirror. They reflect your patterns, your pain, and your potential. In this video, you're not just going to hear quotes, you're going to absorb life-altering truths that will shake you awake, challenge your excuses, and redirect your path, if you let them. So, before we begin, take a breath, set everything else down, and if you're serious about leveling up your mindset and mastering your emotions through Stoic wisdom, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's walk this path together, because what's coming next might just be the truth you've been avoiding, but desperately need to hear.
Number 1.
Guard your priorities like treasure. Have you ever noticed how the word busy leaps from your lips the instant your day spins out of control? Emails explode, group chats roar, and yet another urgent meeting muscles onto your calendar. Suddenly you swear there simply are not enough hours. Yet to everyone's surprise, the true thief is never time. It is misplaced attention, Marcus Aurelius cautioned. Do not squander time, for that is the stuff of life. Every minute surrendered to the trivial is a minute stolen from the future self you keep promising to build. First of all, dismantle the illusion that anyone is genuinely overwhelmed. We are not flooded by tasks, we are flooded by indecision. Warren Buffett proves the point. When a young pilot asked how to excel, Buffett told him to list 25 life goals. Then, without delay, he had him circle the top 5 and ignore the remaining 20 at all costs. In other words, productivity is not about cramming more into the day. It is about casting aside what does not serve the mission. His fortune is less a reward for doing more and more a dividend for defending the essential. But then a deeper question surfaces. How do you protect that sacred space when the world keeps knocking? Seneca offers a blueprint. He wrote his essays at dawn while Rome still slept, claiming those quiet hours as a private workshop for philosophy. Likewise, Buffett blocks his mornings for reading before he makes a single investment decision. Consequently, each day marches under their command instead of dragging them like prisoners chained to a runaway cart. Next, translate their strategy into your own rhythm. Tonight, write every task that believes it owns a slice of tomorrow, then circle the vital 3. Meanwhile, everything uncircled must wait. Expect resistance, emails begging for replies, acquaintances asking favors, algorithms hunting your outrage. Nevertheless, your circled list becomes a lighthouse. Let the storms crash while you keep writing, studying, training, or planning. Because of this deliberate focus, you forge what Epictetus called prohairesis, the sovereign power to choose your response even when circumstances howl. Moreover, prioritization sculpts identity. With each passing second, you either elect the disciplined self you intend or the impulsive self you regret. Suppose a colleague mocks your new boundaries. Suddenly you can observe the remark instead of absorbing it, because your agenda is already spoken for. Undoubtedly, some will label you distant. Let them. A Stoic does not negotiate his values merely to appear agreeable. He safeguards them so he can serve from a position of full strength. Furthermore, clear priorities act as emotional armor. When your calendar flows from intention, interruptions lose their poison. A last-minute invitation arrives and you answer politely yet firmly, preserving energy for your manuscript, your workout, or your child's bedtime story. Thus, anxiety shrinks, clarity expands, and the day ends in gratitude instead of resentment. Importantly, priorities are living documents. Life shifts, goals evolve. For this reason, schedule a weekly audit. Ask, does this still deserve my dawn? If not, release it without sorrow. Seneca reminds us, while we wait for life, life passes. Therefore, urgency becomes an ally, pruning dead branches before they drain life from the trunk. Finally, anchor this discipline with a mantra. Guard the morning, choose the essential, and say a stoic no to the trivial. Repeat it when notifications flash, when boredom tempts, when other people's emergencies masquerade as your duty. In conclusion, your priorities are the architecture of destiny. Protect them as fiercely as a mother shields her child, and very soon you will discover that time was never the enemy. Misallocation was, correct that, and purpose, peace, and productivity will stand shoulder to shoulder, guiding you forward day after deliberate day.
Number 2.
Master the mind or be ruled by it. Have you ever had a thought so loud it drowned out everything else? Your peace, your purpose, even your identity? That's the trap of an untrained mind. It doesn't whisper, it hijacks. One small worry turns into an avalanche of panic. One awkward moment becomes a full-blown story of rejection. Suddenly, you're not living in the world. You're trapped in your head, and it's not a safe place to be. But the Stoics saw through this illusion. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Pain is real, but suffering? That's mental. That's you arguing with reality. It's not the traffic that ruins your day. It's your belief that it shouldn't be there. It's not the criticism that hurts. It's your decision to let it define you. In other words, your greatest enemy is not what's happening. It's how you think about what's happening. Even the most disciplined minds battle this. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, ruled millions. Yet in his private journals, he wrote again and again, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine that. The most powerful man in the world, reminding himself daily not to become a slave to his own thoughts. All of a sudden, the message becomes clear. True control doesn't begin with external mastery. It begins in the silent chambers of the mind. Now ask yourself, what do you do when your thoughts start spinning? Do you breathe or do you scroll? Do you reflect or react? Do you observe or obey? Most people run from discomfort by numbing it. But here's the paradox. The more you try to escape your thoughts, the louder they become, until even silence feels violent. To illustrate, look at Naval Ravikant, a modern-day philosopher and entrepreneur. He once said, "A calm mind leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes." He meditates not to disconnect from life, but to return to it with clarity. That's the goal. Not to silence the mind completely, but to stop letting it run the show. Furthermore, the Stoics didn't practice mental control for luxury. They did it for survival. Seneca rehearsed hardship in his imagination so he could meet life's chaos without surprise. Consequently, when reality struck, he was already steady. No panic, no drama, just calm, deliberate action. But then the question becomes, how do you actually train the mind? First, catch your thoughts before they carry you. Observe, don't chase. Ask yourself the Stoics' core question, is this in my control? If yes, act. If not, release. Most suffering is caused by treating passing emotions as permanent truths. And the longer you hold on to those illusions, the more power they gain. Additionally, reclaim your attention like it's sacred, because it is. Your phone doesn't need you at sunrise, but your peace does. Start your day in silence. Journal, reflect, think before the world starts thinking for you. Train the mind not just to react, but to respond with clarity and presence. Importantly, don't confuse overthinking with wisdom. Overthinking is fear in disguise. Wisdom is stillness. Wisdom is what remains when the noise settles and your soul can finally speak. And very soon after, you'll notice your energy shift, not because life changed, but because your lens did. Seneca said, "No man was ever wise by chance," which means this isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. Through stillness, through self-inquiry, through deliberate practice. Not once, but every single day. In conclusion, the mind is either your sharpest weapon or your deepest wound. The Stoics chose to forge it, so when chaos comes, and it will, you won't need to control the storm, you'll only need to control your sail. And if you forget everything else, remember this: you have power over your mind, not outside events. That's not just a quote, that's your freedom. Use it.
Number 3.
Let go of people who keep you stuck. There comes a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes explosive, when you realize certain people aren't just draining your energy, they're distorting your identity. You leave a conversation feeling smaller. You explain your dreams and get silence or sarcasm. You express your standards and get mocked for them. At first you make excuses. You say, "They're just going through something," or "Maybe I'm being too sensitive." But then something clicks. You see through the fog, you realize they're not just unsupportive, they benefit from your confusion, because the clearer you become, the less they can control you. The Stoics were radical in their clarity. Epictetus said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." He didn't say tolerate everyone. He said choose. Why? Because every interaction is an exchange of energy. Someone's worldview either sharpens yours or dulls it. Their tone either reinforces your discipline or makes a mockery of it. And very soon after, if you're not careful, you begin to normalize their noise. To illustrate, consider Oprah Winfrey. At the height of her rise, she said one of the most important lessons she learned was to stop trying to convince people of her worth. "You don't have to dim your light," she said, "to make others feel more comfortable." That's not ego, that's alignment. That's exactly what the Stoics practiced. Not arrogance, but the refusal to betray yourself just to be accepted by people who refuse to grow. Now pause and ask yourself, who in your life makes you second-guess your progress? Who drains you, guilts you, gaslights you into believing that staying small is noble? Sometimes it's not enemies that hold us back. It's friends stuck in outdated versions of us. Family who confuse closeness with control. Co-workers who praise your ambition, then quietly sabotage it when it threatens their comfort. Moreover, if you don't set boundaries, your life begins shrinking to fit their expectations. You think you're keeping the peace, but really you're trading your peace. The Stoics would call that a betrayal of the soul. You start censoring your goals, diluting your voice, living a quieter, smaller version of your truth, not out of virtue, but out of fear. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." The process is mutual. In other words, relationships aren't meant to paralyze your growth. They're meant to test it, strengthen it, and reflect it back to you like a mirror. Furthermore, boundaries aren't rejection. They're redirection. They're not walls, they're filters. They protect what's sacred in you from what's careless in others. Setting limits is not cruelty, it's clarity, and clarity to the Stoic is everything. Because without clarity, you cannot act in accordance with reason. And when you abandon reason, you abandon peace. But then the question becomes, how do you walk away without guilt? You don't need to make a scene. You don't need to justify your healing. You simply observe the pattern, you trust what it's cost you, you honor the discomfort, and then you choose differently, not with hate, with detachment. Not to punish them, but to protect yourself, because sometimes the most powerful act of love is distance. Additionally, protect your peace like it's oxygen, because it is. You can't think clearly, act decisively, or feel deeply in an environment that constantly triggers your survival mode. Letting go isn't just emotional, it's biological. When your nervous system is always bracing, you're not living. You're bracing, and a life spent bracing is a life unlived. In conclusion, if someone treats you like an option, leave them like a choice. Don't explain your standards to those committed to misunderstanding them. You were not born to be a mirror for someone else's insecurity. You were born to grow, so grow, even if it means growing apart. The right ones will meet you there, and the wrong ones, they were just a chapter, not the whole book.
Number 4.
Build your future by investing in yourself today. Imagine waking up one day to realize that everything you dreamed of wasn't handed to you. It was built, brick by brick, day after day. But then the question arises, are you working on your life or just in it? Many spend their hours laboring for paychecks, pleasing others, or chasing fleeting distractions. Yet the greatest investment you can ever make is in yourself. Because as Seneca wisely said, the greatest wealth is to live content with little. But the contentment he meant was not from passivity. It came from mastering yourself, growing your mind and character, and crafting a life of purpose. Let's start with an unsettling truth. Success without effort is a fantasy. You cannot harvest where you have not planted. Imagine a gardener sitting idle, expecting fruit to drop from barren branches. Similarly, ambition without discipline is like a ship without a rudder, directionless and doomed to drift. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The key is consistent action. Tiny habits, compounded daily, create extraordinary change. And then there's the story of J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter, she was rejected multiple times, facing hardship and doubt. Yet she invested relentlessly in her craft, writing through struggle and solitude. Her success wasn't instant. It was the fruit of unseen hours, a testament to unwavering self-investment. Had she waited for perfect conditions or external validation, her story would have never unfolded. Now consider your own life. Are you working at your job to merely make a living? Or are you working on yourself to make a fortune? A fortune measured not only in money, but in resilience, wisdom, and freedom. This is the Stoic distinction between externals and internals. Externals, money, status, approval, are fleeting. Internals, your values, discipline, and clarity, are unshakable. Moreover, the world moves fast, and complacency is the silent thief of potential. Epictetus counseled, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. What's in your power right now? Your choices, your habits, your mindset. No one else can do this work for you. No shortcut exists, but the payoff? A life shaped by intention, not chance. Yet this path demands patience. It demands humility to accept failure as a stepping stone, not a verdict. Remember, the lotus flower grows through mud, so too must you push through discomfort to bloom. Don't expect rapid transformation. Expect steady growth. As Seneca said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. When one door closes, your comfort zone, you enter the unknown fertile ground of growth. Furthermore, investing in yourself isn't merely about grand gestures. It's the small daily rituals that anchor you. Waking early to read, journaling your reflections, refining your skills, nurturing your health. The Stoics were masters of routine. Understanding excellence is forged in repetition, not bursts of motivation. Now, what about fear? The fear of failure, judgment, wasting time? That's normal, but the Stoics teach us to reframe fear as a compass, pointing to what matters most. As Seneca declared, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Courage isn't absence of fear. It's choosing to act despite it. The question isn't whether you feel ready, It's whether you feel ready to keep going anyway. Lastly, the value of your future self depends on how fiercely you guard your present self. Your habits today are your destiny tomorrow. So discipline is not punishment. It is the path to freedom, freedom from regret, freedom from distraction, freedom to build the life you want, brick by brick. In conclusion, invest in yourself relentlessly. Nurture your mind, body, and soul with the same commitment you give your job or relationships. The fortune you build within will outlast any external success. Remember, Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Obstacles aren't roadblocks. They are the materials for your fortress. Build wisely, patiently, daily. Your future depends on it.
Number 5.
Embrace hardship as the forge of your character. Have you ever noticed how pain tends to isolate us? It whispers, "You are alone in this." And very soon after, it convinces us that suffering is a punishment rather than a teacher. But the Stoics saw pain differently. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." What if your hardships aren't enemies, but allies, sculpting your resilience and wisdom in silent, unseen ways? First of all, let's dispel a myth. Comfort is not the path to growth. Far from it. In fact, comfort can dull the mind and weaken the spirit. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that a life too easy leads to mental decay. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not poetic fluff. It's practical truth. Every obstacle is an invitation to develop strength, patience, and clarity. Consider the example of Oprah Winfrey, who endured a difficult childhood, poverty, and early trauma. Yet she transformed that pain into purpose, becoming one of the most influential voices of our time. She didn't avoid hardship. She embraced it and allowed it to shape her empathy and grit. Now you might ask, how can we reframe suffering in our own lives? The Stoics suggest a powerful technique called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's a practice of imagining loss, failure, or pain before it happens. Not to invite despair, but to prepare your mind to face it with equanimity. When the inevitable arrives, it no longer blindsides you. You meet it with calm and resolve. And then there's the question of emotional response. Pain itself is often unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, emotional mastery is your secret weapon. When disappointment strikes, you can respond with rage or with reason. When loss comes knocking, you can crumble or you can stand firm. The choice is yours. Furthermore, hardship is the furnace that refines your character. Just as steel becomes stronger through repeated heating and hammering, your mind and spirit become more resilient through challenge and adversity. But this process requires conscious effort. You must pause and ask, what is this pain teaching me? How can I use it to grow rather than to break? To illustrate, take the story of J.K. Rowling again. Facing rejection after rejection, she could have given up. Instead, she used the hardship as fuel for her creativity and determination. Her adversity didn't define her limits. It redefined her possibilities. Moreover, embracing hardship doesn't mean seeking suffering. It means accepting that pain is part of the human experience and refusing to let it control you. It means cultivating the Stoic virtue of courage, not reckless bravery, but the steady, persistent willingness to face life fully, regardless of its trials. But then, how do we cultivate this courage daily? Start small. When discomfort arises, whether a difficult conversation, a demanding task, or physical exhaustion, choose presence over avoidance. Lean into the moment. Remind yourself, this too is a chance to build strength. Also, remember the importance of reflection. After every challenge, review your response. What did you learn? Where did you falter? Where did you grow? This cycle of action, reflection, and adjustment is the core of Stoic practice. In conclusion, hardship is not your enemy. It's the forge where your character is tempered. Pain may visit, but it does not have to imprison. Instead, use it as a tool to sharpen your mind, steady your heart, and clarify your purpose. As Marcus Aurelius said, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. So embrace the struggle, knowing that every trial is a step toward the unshakable strength within you. Number 6, harness silence to cultivate power and clarity. Have you ever noticed how in a noisy world, the loudest voice isn't always the wisest? In fact, silence often speaks louder than words ever could. But then, why do so many rush to fill every moment with sound, reaction, or opinion? The Stoics understood silence as a powerful weapon, a shield against distraction, and a gateway to deeper self-mastery. Seneca famously said, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." And that lesson is the art of restraint, which shapes true power. First of all, silence protects your energy. Every word you speak costs a fraction of your mental and emotional currency. When you speak less, you preserve that currency for the moments that truly matter. Marcus Aurelius counseled himself to be deliberate with words. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This is not just moralism, it's strategy. Words wasted on gossip, complaint, or meaningless chatter drain your presence and cloud your mind. Furthermore, silence grants you the space to listen, not only to others, but to your inner voice. The world offers an endless stream of noise, but beneath that noise lies your intuition, your clarity, your inner compass. Without silence, these vital guides drown. Yet with silence, you hear what's real versus what's urgent, what's fleeting versus what's essential. Consider the story of Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, known not just for his investing genius, but for his habit of embracing silence. He spends 80% of his day reading and reflecting quietly. Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." His silence creates clarity, enabling him to make decisions with calm precision while others get lost in noise. But then silence does more than just protect and clarify. It also commands respect. People who speak less but with purpose naturally draw attention. Their words carry weight because they are not diluted by excess. This is the quiet power of restraint. It's why some of history's greatest minds, from Marcus Aurelius to Seneca, valued silence as a form of strength. However, silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is not avoidance. It is awareness. When confronted with conflict, silence allows you to observe rather than react. It lets you choose your response with wisdom instead of impulse. Epictetus taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The ability to listen deeply is the foundation of emotional intelligence and social influence. Moreover, silence gives you control over your narrative. In a culture obsessed with instant reaction and oversharing, choosing silence is an act of sovereignty. It means you are not a puppet of external opinions or fleeting trends. Instead, you master your voice and reveal it only when it serves your highest purpose. But then the question arises, how do you cultivate silence in a world screaming for attention? Start small. Designate pockets of quiet in your day. Turn off your phone notifications. Practice mindful breathing. Journal your thoughts instead of voicing every one of them. You don't have to become mute, but you can learn to be selective and intentional. Additionally, silence nurtures self-reflection. The Stoics wrote their meditations in solitude, grappling with their thoughts in silence. It's in these quiet moments that insight and growth take root. Without silence, reflection is shallow and fleeting. With it, you build a deeper understanding of yourself and your place in the world. In conclusion, silence is not weakness. It is one of the greatest expressions of inner strength. It preserves your energy, sharpens your mind, deepens your empathy, and strengthens your influence. As Marcus Aurelius advised, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. So step back from the noise, embrace the power of silence, and watch as your clarity, confidence, and control rise, quietly and undeniably. Number 7, own your time, the most valuable currency you have. Have you ever felt the weight of time slipping through your fingers like grains of sand? The truth is, time is the one resource you cannot replenish. And very soon after, you realize that no amount of money or power can buy back a lost moment. The Stoics knew this deeply, Seneca warned. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. So the question becomes, how do you stop wasting time and start owning it? First of all, recognize that time is the foundation of everything. Without time, no wealth, no relationships, no achievements matter. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this when he said, "Don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about others. What does it matter what they say or think?" This is a call to focus your energy on what you can control, your own use of time. Consider the example of Elon Musk, who famously divides his day into 5-minute blocks. This radical time management forces intense focus and eliminates waste. Musk understands that every minute not invested in purposeful action is lost opportunity. His relentless prioritization has propelled multiple industries forward. But then, it's not just about managing hours. It's about valuing them. Treat each moment as precious, as if it were a rare gem. When you do this, procrastination loses its grip. Distractions become less tempting. You begin to protect your time like a sacred trust. The Stoics remind us, time is a river, a violent current of events, glimpsed once and already carried past us. Moreover, the modern world tempts us to be busy, confusing activity with progress. Yet true progress demands presence and intention. When you're scattered, multitasking, or overwhelmed, you lose touch with the power of now. Epictetus taught, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Owning your time means living deliberately, fully invested in the present task without mental wandering. Furthermore, be aware of how you spend your time on relationships. Are you investing in people who uplift and inspire you? Or are you caught in draining cycles of negativity and distraction? Seneca urged, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." Your social calendar is as precious as your work schedule. Guard it fiercely. And very soon after, you'll notice that your use of time reflects your values more than your words ever could. The people who make time for you, who prioritize you, reveal their true place in your life. Don't settle for crumbs of attention. Demand full presence from those who deserve it. But then the inevitable challenge arrives. How do you say no? How do you set boundaries when every demand pulls at your attention? Start by knowing your non-negotiables, your core goals and priorities. Say no, not out of fear or selfishness, but out of respect for what matters most. As Marcus Aurelius advised, reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears. Reject distractions the same way. Additionally, cultivate rituals that protect your time, morning routines, dedicated work blocks, technology fasts. These are not restrictions but shields. They create a container for your energy and focus. The Stoics didn't rely on willpower alone. They built environments that supported their discipline. Lastly, remember that time is the raw material of legacy. What you build with your hours shapes the story you leave behind. So invest your time wisely, Make choices that future you will thank present you for. As Seneca said, while we wait for life, life passes. Don't wait, own your time, own your life. In conclusion, time is your most valuable currency, more precious than gold or fame. The Stoics teach us that how we use time defines who we are. So stop waiting for the right moment. Stop giving your time to things that don't align with your values. Instead, start living deliberately. Guard your hours as if they were your last, because in truth, they just might be. Remember, mastery over life begins with mastery over yourself. The Stoics teach us that true power lies not in external circumstances, but in how we choose to respond. Every moment is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more deliberate. So don't wait for the perfect conditions or someone else's permission. Start now, protect your peace, own your time, and build your future with intention. If you found value here, subscribe and join this journey of quiet strength and relentless growth. Your best self is waiting. Claim it today.